Hello and good evening, everybody. And tonight we are going to tackle episode 36 of Album Rant. And this is going to be my very first time, surprisingly, ever doing an episode of Album Rant about Motley Crue, who are one of my favorite bands ever. I mean, I have been a very dedicated fan ever since high school, believe it or not, and I've never actually done a full-fledged analysis on them. I promised I would in a previous episode of Face Off, but tonight I am going to come through on that promise, and we are going to look at their second studio release entitled Shout at the Devil. Now, these guys are an American hard rock heavy metal band that originated in the early 80s in Los Angeles, California. And they were composed of Vince Neil on lead vocals, Mick Mars on lead guitar, Nikki Sixx on bass guitar, and Tommy Lee, yes, that Tommy Lee, on the drums. And they released their very first album in the year 1981, and it was entitled Too Fast for Love. And I think it is an absolute beast. I mean, it has classics such as Live Wire, Come On and Dance, Public Enemy Number 1, Take Me to the Top, Piece of Your Action, the title track, and On with the Show, which was their very first power ballad, but maybe not in the sense that you're thinking, because this was a definite metal album. I mean, it definitely had some influences of punk rock on it that I could hear or see or whatever, but this was very much not a glam rock album. Now, Motley Crue today are very highly associated with the whole glam metal fad of the late 80s, and I guess that's true to an extent. I mean, starting with Girls, 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 I thought they really did kind of polish their sound a little bit, but it still had something resembling an aggressive feel to it. And they often get lumped together with bands such as Cinderella or Warrant or Faster Pussycat. And by the way, I think all three of them suck, except for Cinderella. I actually do kind of enjoy them. But I never really thought that Motley Crue, it was fair to categorize them in the same genre as some of those other artists. But it's done, and like I said, it's true to an extent, but it was certainly not true back then. But anyways, after the release of Too Fast for Love, they toured with Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour. And apparently, Gene Simmons didn't really care for them and their destructive behavior, I guess you could say. I forget his exact quote, but it was something along those lines. These guys definitely lived up to the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll stereotype. I mean, they had some very, very extreme behavior, as I guess you could say. And around that time, Nikki Sixx himself actually, while drunk, stole someone's car and crashed into something. And it's a pretty infamous story, but believe it or not, that's not the craziest thing he's ever done. But anyways, after all of that, we come to the year 1983. And we are now going to take a look at their sophomore effort entitled Shout at the Devil, which did receive a lot of criticisms from parental groups saying that the album was promoting Satanism. Ooh. Yeah, here's my parental advisory. Lighten up. But anyways, for some reason my edition of this doesn't have this, but I know my CD edition does. There was allegedly a pentagram on the front cover. I mean, this is a very old copy. I believe this is an original press, so maybe it just faded away over time, or maybe it got burned away like the swastika on the Ark of the Covenant, but you can't see it now. But again, that pentagram raised a lot of alarms as a lot of parental groups thought that the album once again was encouraging kids to worship Satan. It it was a time, I can say that. But let's go ahead and see what we have here in the middle. We have a nice little gatefold here, and here is the band. We have Nikki Sixx, if we can kind of get the glare out of there, right there on bass on the far left. We have Vince Neil right there on lead vocals. A lot of people have said he's a terrible singer, and I've seen these guys 3 times in concert, and well, he wasn't good, but I'll say this, he's a lot better than David Lee Roth. We have Mick Mars on lead guitar right there, and he is now currently out of the band. He was recently let go a couple of years ago, I believe in 2022. It's a shame. And then we have Tommy Lee right there on the drums. So let's see what we have here on the back. Now, there's another picture of the band right there, and here is the list of songs. Now, I gotta be honest, this record does something that really kind of drives me nuts. They list the songs out of order. So you can see the order right here, but this is not the order in which it goes in, so I'm gonna have to kind of flip around a little bit and kind of go zigzag a little bit, but I'll do my very best. But it all kicks off with side 1, and we have In the Beginning. Now, this is not an actual song, it's really more of an intro piece, and it is a very good intro piece. It's very dark and murky. I mean, it's got a very, very creepy vibe to it. And it's definitely not what the band is most well known for, but I think it works very, very well. But it starts out with, In the beginning, good always overpowered the evils of all man's sins. But in time, the nations grew weak, and our cities fell to slums while evil stood strong. In the dust of hell lurked the blackest of hates, for he whom they feared await them. Now, many, many lifetimes later, lay destroyed, beaten down, only corpses of rebels, ashes of dreams, and blood-stained streets. It has been written that those who have the youth have the future. So come now, children of the beast, be strong and shout at the devil! And it's incredible, okay? It is only about a 1.5-minute intro, but I absolutely love it because it segues very, very well into the title track. Now, the title track in the year 1997 did undergo a re-recording. It had a much different feel to it. And, well, for, again, lack of a better word, that version sucks. This is the version you need to listen to. This thing is slower. This thing is doomier, but it's much more raw and aggressive, and I like it. Starts out with shout, 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 shout. Yeah, shout at the devil! And boy, it is just incredible. Again, it starts to pick up a little bit, but it's still very slow, very doomy, and very gothic. And, well, I know a lot of people say Vince Neil can't sing once again. I think he is just fine on this. And Shout at the Devil is one of my all-time favorite Motley Crue songs ever. Now, the first 2 times that I saw them, it seems they did play that sped-up version, and I was very, very disappointed. But the last time I saw them in the year 2022, I believe. Yes, it was 2022. I think they did play the original beat to it, the slowed down version, and it was a lot better, and I really did appreciate that. But Shout at the Devil, great title track, great kickoff song. I love it. The second song is Looks That Kill. And this one is a little bit faster, but it's still kind of slow, but it's also very, very raw and aggressive, just like the previous track. And this is mostly known as the big hit from Shout at the Devil, and it's a great song, okay? It's only about 3 minutes or so, but the rhythm is great, the guitar work is great, and for all of his criticisms, I think Vince Neil, again, does a very good job on lead vocals. We now move to the fourth track, and it's entitled Bastard. Now, I alluded to this in a previous episode. In the mid-'80s, Tipper Gore assembled a list of her quote-unquote filthy 15, which she considered to be 15 extremely profane and offensive songs, and if she actually stood by her morals and principles, I'm sure she's having a heart attack today with what the current music is putting out, but that's another subject. But Bastard made the Filthy 15 list, along with a lot of songs by Twisted Sister and Into the Coven by Merciful Fate. Yeah, it's a very strange list, but whatever. But I'm guessing the fact that it made the list is because it's entitled Bastard, so whatever. I mean, the Rolling Stones had a song called Bitch. That didn't make it, but okay, you do you. But Bastard is apparently about someone that the band knew that they just didn't like very well, apparently. But it's another very good song. It's a lot faster than the previous two songs. Starts out with a little drum intro, and it just gets kicking really, it starts kicking right off the bat. It comes out swinging, and well, I, again, really like it, and I think it's a pretty cool track. And I'm sure the fact that it made the Filthy 15 was only even more positive advertising for Motley Crue, because I'm sure that made kids want to go out and buy this album because this was on it. And I mean, if you're gonna try to get kids to not listen to something, telling them that it's profane is the worst way to do it. So I think that that tactic kind of backfired, but whatever. But then the next song after that is not Knock 'Em Dead Kid. It's actually God Bless the Children of the Beast, and it's only about a minute or so. It's mostly acoustically driven. Well, I don't know if it's acoustically driven, but it's definitely very soft, not like what we just experienced. But the only lyrics are, God bless the children of the beast. And I'm sure I said that wrong, but whatever. But then we come to the last song off of side one, and it's going to be right here. It is a cover of the Beatles song, Helter Skelter. And I'm just going to come out and say this. I never have been a Beatles fan. I know they are legendary. I know they have been beyond influential, and I know they are considered to be quite possibly the greatest musical artists ever. I totally respect that. Just never was my cup of tea. I'm sure if they had continued on into the 70s, I would have started to like them because music was starting to evolve a lot in the 70s, and I'm sure they would have ridden that bandwagon, but I digress. But I've never actually heard the Beatles version of Helter Skelter. I do know the history behind it. I do know that Charles Manson was highly influenced by it, and because of that, he did some pretty terrible things. But the Motley Crue version absolutely kicks. I love it. I am sure it sounds totally different than the Beatles version, but it sounds very raw and aggressive, and this is pure full-fledged heavy metal, and I absolutely love it. Maybe one day I will hear the Beatles version, but I gotta say this, I love the Motley Crue version. But if I had to pick a favorite from side one, it is definitely the title track. But boy, this is such a strong side. I mean, Shout the Devil, Looks That Kill, Bastard, and Helter Skelter are all very great songs, all very great tracks, but the title track is going to win. So now we come to side two, and it kicks off with Red Hot. And I'm going to come out and say this right now. Side two does not fare as well as side one, but it still does pretty well. Red Hot, again, starts off pretty fast, and it's a pretty fast track. And again, it's got a great sound to it. I think everyone is doing a great job on it, but just it doesn't really have the punch that some of the previous songs did. Then we come to Too Young to Fall in Love. Right there, 8th track total, 2nd track from side 2, and this one is a little bit slower, but I mean, it's pretty good. I have heard this one in concert, I think at least once, maybe twice, I can't remember. But this is the other really big hit single from Shout the Devil. But again, something about it just doesn't stick with me as well as some of the other songs. But again, it's incredibly strong and I do highly recommend it. Then we come to Knock 'Em Dead Kid, which I think fares a little bit better than Red Hot and Too Young to Fall in Love. Again, parental groups were just freaking out because it's encouraging violence. Ooh, but I think it's innocent enough. But I do like Knock 'Em Dead Kid. It's a little bit slower, like I said, but, you know, has the punch, so I like it. Then, I kind of lost track here. Maybe I did. Oh, no. Then, the 10th track, 4th track on side 2 is 10 Seconds to Love, and it's also a little bit faster than Knock 'Em Dead Kid, but it's definitely one of the weaker songs on here, but, you know, I still kind of dig it, and I definitely will listen to it. But then it all concludes with the album closer. 5th track from side 2, 11th track total, and that is going to be Danger. And it's slower. It's now back to that's now back to the doomy gothic atmosphere that we started with within the beginning in Shout the Devil. And I think this one closes things out very, very well. You know, the chorus is pretty similar. It just goes, Danger, and then a few other things I can't quite remember, but I do really like Danger, and that probably is my favorite from side 2. Again, side 2 is definitely the weaker side. I mean, the sound is fine. The sound is incredibly strong. It's got a very aggressive metallic feeling to it. I just think that the songwriting was a lot better on side 1, but I think Danger is my favorite from side 2, and the title track is my favorite from side 1, but I absolutely do recommend this album. Again, I would never really say that the band became a full-fledged glam band, but they did kind of steer towards that direction on some of their future releases past this one, and that is what the band is most well known for, especially the song Home Sweet Home, which I cannot stand. But these first 2 releases by Motley Crue, Too Fast for Love and Shout the Devil, they're often overlooked, and I think it's a really, really big shame because I think that this is Motley Crue at their very best. And I do recommend both of those first 2 albums, and I even recommend the rest of their 80s work. Yeah, Theater of Pain, Girls, 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 and Dr. Feelgood may not have been as good, but I still think that the songwriting is incredibly good on them, and I think they are worth a listen. So that is going to conclude my review of Shout at the Devil, and I really want to say it was very fun talking about it, and I hope that this at least encourages some people to go out and listen to it. Now, will I be back next week? Potentially, if you play your hand right. But until then, have a very pleasant evening.